time for a quick break. Coming up, we're bringing closing numbers at the Philippine Stock Exchange, followed by our market chat with Unicapital's Pamela Victoriano. This is Market Edge. Welcome back. The market is closed and the numbers are in. One more quick look at today's finish line. 59.53, up by 1/3%. Value turnover, anemic, 4.6 billion, 95 advancers, slightly beating 94 decliners. The broader all shares also up by 1/5%. Let's get more in the markets now. Let's bring in Pamela Victoriano, SVP for Investment Banking at Unicapital. Hi, Pam. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to Market Edge.
Hi, Mimi. Thank you for having us.
All right, so let's start with Maynila. The offer period ends tomorrow, October 29, Wednesday. Of course, it's the second largest IPO in Philippine history. What's happening there? Are there positive or negative maybe surprises in that offer period? And what kind of a stock do you think Maynila will become for investors?
So that's quite a lot to unpack. But first and foremost, from the capital market standpoint, we're very happy and we're very excited that Maynila is pushing through. We do welcome a lot more IPOs coming on board and joining the bourse. And so far, we're seeing quite a good level of interest, actually, from both institutional and retail investors in Maynila. It's one of those sectors that, in our house view, is actually quite attractive, especially in market conditions such as these. It's something that we see as a defensive stock. It's a water utility. It's quite stable. Cash flows are good. And at the current price, we think that the dividend yield, both for this year and next year, might be quite competitive. So I'd say more of like very welcome and good developments. And we're quite happy to see them finally push through with their IPO plans within the year.
All right. Do you think it's going to be a high flyer stock, or, investors will just benefit from the dividends? The price, don't expect sudden jumps or spikes. Just it's a dividend play.
Oh,
what do you think?
Interesting. Okay, so again, the reason why we like it so much is more from a defensive position. So we think that the organic growth is going to continue to be there. But also interesting, they have a number of programs in the pipe. So they're looking to improve, I think, their non-revenue water, and that's going to improve profitability within the investments that they've made. From what I recall from their prospectus, there's also plans to further expand some of their other business lines. So that's expected to potentially bring in additional revenue growth moving forward. So those are some of the exciting prospects which we think might move the growth even higher than the regular growth. But still actually quite competitive, I would say. Very good growth that we've seen from them.
All right. Looking at IPOs, you're saying, and I quote, "The real race is won long before the bell rings." That an IPO isn't just a financial decision, it is a transformation of the business. Maynila seems to be a solid bet. It's a utility. Whatever happens, we're all going to need and use water.
That's very
defensive. But outside of the defensive, the utility names, how many other names can you actually think of that you think is prime for the picking or are prime for the picking that meet, I understand, your 5 pillars of IPO readiness? We have a checklist of this IPO readiness that you say.
Yes, that's correct. So I'd say there's quite a number still. The Philippines has, I'd say, 80% of your businesses here are family businesses. There's room and space for growth. And that's something that we welcome in the market. We hope to encourage more companies to list. I think just between the two of us, if we think of some of our household brands, there's still quite a significant percentage of them who have not yet actually tapped the market. So there's a lot of room for growth. We see a lot of companies starting their preparations. They're in the pipeline, cannot name names as of the moment, but it's looking to be, like good opportunities moving forward as we see the markets recover.
Are these big names in the pipeline?
Good mix of big corporates as well as mid-sized companies, I would say.
And what do you say to companies that are saying, being listed will just mean more expenses for me. I'm going to go through a more rigorous reporting, disclosure requirements for me and my company. I may not necessarily benefit. I mean, you see companies going private again after being public companies for the longest time. What do you say to those companies who have that mindset? And seeing how the market has been languishing, it's not exactly a great time to go out there.
And that's true. And I think that's a good point to make. One thing to note about the equities and the debt capital markets is it's quite cyclical. So there's always going to be an upturn and a downturn. We've gone through a high inflation, high interest rate environment, which has significantly dampened appetite for equities. But that also means that we are potentially poised for growth and recovery. And that's what we're excited about. And we think quite a number of these companies would also be looking forward to that. There are costs. Is additional work to be done before the IPO and post-listing. So there are disclosure requirements. There are costs with regards to the preparations for an IPO. But overall, from what we've seen and the clients we've helped take public in the past couple of years, the benefits far outweigh the costs and the risks. You see the valuation that you have. It helps also to build the legacy of the businesses. For most of the businesses in the Philippines we see are family businesses. These are the babies of the founders. And because they're family businesses, then the question comes, how do you then professionalize, institutionalize your competitive advantage and build it such as the second, third, fourth generations are actually able to still take part in the business without necessarily becoming the next CEO or CFO. It's always a question as you grow the business. You'll need hands there to help guide the growth of the company and to execute your business plans. But can you always bring in your son, your daughter, your relative to do it, right? So what we've seen actually is some of the longest running family businesses globally are actually companies who have tapped the capital markets. Going through the IPO process, we always say it's not your end goal. It's actually the start. It's a way to institutionalize the processes and to create the opportunity for the family legacy to live on way beyond the listing date.
All right. Outside of the IPO, I wanted to get your take. We talked about how the Philippine market has been languishing, especially in comparison to peers in the region or on Wall Street or in Europe. I wonder, so we're now just a tad below 6,000.
Correct.
Imagine we came from 9,000 in 2018. That feels like a lifetime ago. Where does the market go from here?
Interesting question. So we think it's pretty much at bottom at the moment. This is some of the lowest valuations. If you compare it across the region, we are at a discount compared to some of our peers. And we think that's something that we've seen in the past couple of weeks. Whenever the market goes down further a little bit, we see the market start to recover. And that's something exciting and interesting. And we think that as the inflation continues to ease, we've had a pretty good inflation rate for last month. The BSP has been cutting interest rates, finally, and we expect moving forward that they may have enough economic headroom to actually continue cutting rates. With that in place, we believe that some of the investor appetite might shift from risk-averse to a more risk-on appetite, and that would potentially be the catalyst for the equity capital markets.
Oh, here's the good question. How patient should we be to wait for that shift from risk-averse to risk-on?
Interesting. Okay. So I think it's going to be a question of what opportunities are available for you at the moment. So, and part of the reason why we are excited and confident about this, you're starting to see the interest rates cut. And that has affected the returns for both bonds as well as preferreds. So moving forward, if the interest rates continue to get cut, we're going to see a lot of that interest shift.
All right. We're now in the middle of reporting season. Are you feeling great about the numbers that you're seeing so far? Are you seeing more hits, misses, or beats?
Okay. So for this one, it is a little lower than our previous forecast for corporate growth for this year. I think our house view is we expect corporate earnings growth to be at about 8% for 2025. Still quite respectable, though, if you compare it to the rest of ASEAN and if you compare it to our GDP. So we think in the mid to the long term, the Philippines is still a good economy and market to invest in. The growth is there, admittedly a bit more muted because of the high cost environment we're coming from. And that cost, it literally comes with a cost, right? With a high interest rate environment, your cost of money is just higher and you may need to cut down on some of those growth plans. But moving forward, if you ask me, it's still a good market to invest in, whether you're looking at it from a regional standpoint or even from a private perspective.
And the peso breaching the 59 to the dollar handle, how does that impact the attractiveness or how constructive you might be feeling about the stock market?
Oh, interesting. So it does take a bit of a hit, especially if you're in a business who imports goods. It would be potentially good for some of our retail investors who may be earning in dollars or who are looking forward to, higher spending money this Christmas season, and that higher dollar would potentially benefit them. We think it's something that is as of the moment. It's something that we see every year, actually. We see a lot more dollar purchases in the run-up to the Christmas season, and that normally affects the peso-dollar rate a little bit. So by next year, I'm thinking it should recover a little bit from where it is as of the moment.
On that note, Pam, thank you very much for joining us and for the insights. We appreciate you being here and sharing, your views on the markets and the IPO pipeline. Please do join us again.
Thank you so much, Mimi. Good to be here.
All right.